I was scrolling through my feed the other day and stopped on a clip of a man standing on a brightly lit conference stage. You've likely seen him. Arms crossed in a classic power pose, signature thick-rimmed, take me seriously spectacles, projecting the kind of unshakable silver-haired authority that makes you sit up a little straighter. He was speaking about the male loneliness epidemic, dissecting the dating marketplace and economic value with the clinical precision of a surgeon. The audience was rapt. It felt like someone had finally cracked the code on why modern men are struggling, delivering the answers in high-definition, viral-ready sound bites. He looked like the definitive sage for a lost generation. But then I decided to look at his credentials. I expected to find a PhD in psychology, a background in sociology, or perhaps a career spent in public health. Instead, I found a professor of marketing and a serial entrepreneur. The man who's become the global face of modern masculinity, the author of Notes on Being a Man, has no professional training in gender studies or human behavior. He spent his career analyzing the big four tech companies and teaching brand management to MBA students, not studying the systemic roots of social isolation. That realization felt like a glitch in the matrix. We've collectively handed the microphone to a master of brand distribution to diagnose our collective soul. It's a jarring shift. From seeing a philosopher to seeing a salesman who has successfully laundered his legitimacy through podcasts and slick newsletters. The contradictory logic is fascinating. He frames our deepest emotional crises as branding problems that can be solved with the language of neoliberal capitalism. It makes you wonder, when did we decide that a confident delivery and a few clever charts were a substitute for actual expertise? If the person telling us why we're lonely is just an entrepreneur scaling a new niche, are we actually finding a cure? Or are we just the latest target demographic?
This feeling that you're looking for a cure, a real solution, but you're just being sold another product.
Exactly. And the thing that gets me is that the problem, the actual pain, is so real.
The loneliness, the feeling of being adrift, that's not manufactured, but the way we're being told to look at it, that might be the real issue.
That's precisely what we need to get into today.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the whole landscape of advice for men, it feels like, I don't know, a trap. On one side, you have all this very real, very scary data.
The suicide rates, yeah. College enrollment numbers.
And then on the other side, you've got this booming industry of answers. But the answers aren't coming from therapists. They aren't coming from sociologists or community leaders.
They're coming from business analysts, from marketing professors.
Which completely changes the solution, right? It's like if you ask a hammer how to fix something, every problem looks like a nail.
And if you ask a marketing professor how to fix a soul, every problem looks like a branding issue.
We're going to pull apart this intersection of marketing, evolutionary psychology, and this crisis of modern masculinity. And we're going to do it through, let's call them three distinct stories.
Three lenses.
Three lenses. I like that better. First, we're going to look at the figure of the guru, and specifically how someone can manufacture that kind of authority out of thin air.
Then the biology, the mismatch, the actual scientific reason for the pain that these men are feeling.
And finally, we'll look at the market. How we sort of let this economic transactional logic take over our entire lives, even our love lives.
And I think it's important to say up front, this isn't about, a takedown of one specific person. It's about a mechanism.
Right.
It's about understanding why. Why, when men are clearly in a lot of pain, the only language we have left to offer them is the language of a quarterly earnings report.
Okay, let's start there with that first lens, the guru. And to really get the guru, you first have to understand the person who's in the audience.
Graphic, the customer.
The customer, yeah. I saw a profile not long ago about a guy named Mark. And his story it felt so emblematic. He's a software engineer in Austin.
So successful on paper.
Really. Ticks all the boxes, lives in a cool city. But he talked about this feeling of being hollowed out. That his life was just a checklist he was completing, but it didn't add up to anything real.
A feeling I think a lot of people can relate to.
Sure. So he's scrolling online, feeling this way, and he stumbles on a viral clip of this incredibly charismatic business professor, not a psychologist, but a guy who just speaks with this absolute authority.
It's that specific cadence, isn't it? The TED Talk rhythm, confident, rhythmic, simple statements.
It's hypnotic.
Yeah.
And Mark didn't just watch the video, he said he converted. He starts repeating all the catchphrases from this professor, things like economic utility and alpha status, using them like mantras to get through his day.
So it's giving him a new language, a new framework to understand his own unhappiness.
Exactly. And it culminates in him spending hundreds of dollars on a premium seminar. And I want you to just picture this. Picture Mark in that dark auditorium, leaning forward. And the guy on stage is using concepts from a marketing textbook to explain the holes in Mark's soul.
And for Mark, it probably felt like a revelation.
He said he felt seen, understood for the first time. But what he didn't realize, and what's so chilling, is that he wasn't having a therapeutic breakthrough. He was being onboarded.
Onboarded. That's such a cold corporate word for what he was looking for. He was looking for meaning.
But that's what it was. He wasn't a student, he was a lead. A high-value lead in a perfectly optimized marketing funnel that's designed to do one thing: monetize his isolation.
And that's the unsettling part. You can see the brilliance of it from a business perspective. You identify a desperate market.
A huge market.
And you fill that need not with credentials, not with peer-reviewed data, but with pure charisma and production value.
It's behavioral economics 101. I get the comfort Mark felt, but it forces you to ask, are we actually solving this loneliness epidemic, or are we just turning it into another subscription service?
You know, that image you painted of Mark in the audience, it reminds me of an old-time revival tent meeting.
Yes.
But instead of a preacher promising you salvation in the next life, you have a business strategist on stage promising you a positive ROI in this one.
And the central figure, the preacher in this whole new church, is Scott Galloway. We have to name him because he's the archetype for this entire phenomenon.
He is professor of marketing at NYU Stern, the Prof G-Pod, books like The Algebra of Happiness. He's absolutely everywhere.
And his background is so key here. His actual formal expertise is not in sociology or psychology.
No, it's in brand strategy, luxury goods. He founded L2, which was a business intelligence firm that analyzed digital brands.
I remember L2. They did amazing work breaking down which luxury brands were winning on Instagram and things like that.
Exactly. He founded Red Envelope, the gift company. His entire career was built on analyzing the big four: Amazon, Apple, Google, Facebook. He's a master at understanding how corporations build desire and loyalty.
I used to love his videos breaking down Amazon's supply chain or Apple's brand positioning. I mean, the man is undeniably a genius at analyzing market dynamics.
He is a genius. He knows how to package a value proposition. But this is the crucial move. He's taken that exact same analytical toolkit and turned it away from corporations.
And aimed it at the human soul.
And he did it through a media blitz. The podcast with Kara Swisher gave him tech world cred. The newsletter, No Mercy, No Malice, gave him a direct line to an audience. The TV hits on CNN and MSNBC gave him mainstream legitimacy.
It's that laundering legitimacy we talked about.
He used his hard-won credibility as a brilliant, ruthless business analyst to relaunch himself as a cultural philosopher, and built it on a very specific aesthetic of authority.
The take me seriously spectacles.
The spectacles, right? You have to look at the whole image he projects.
It's the crossed arms, the tight t-shirt to show he's fit, the silver hair. He looks like a private equity guy who also does CrossFit.
It's a very specific semiotic package. And if you contrast him with, say, another major figure in the space, like Jordan Peterson, the difference is fascinating.
Peterson's whole vibe is different.
Peterson dresses like a 19th century academic or a stern grandfather. He gets emotional, he cries, he talks in mythological terms about chaos dragons.
Right. Peterson is the priest. He's working on a spiritual, mythological level.
Exactly. And Galloway's the CEO. He doesn't look like he's going to save your soul. He looks like he's going to fix your third quarter numbers.
He looks like he's about to walk into a boardroom and tell you the hard truths about your declining market share.
And for a huge number of modern men, that specific aesthetic, the shareholder meeting aesthetic, is actually far more comforting than a therapy session aesthetic.
Why do you think that is? Intuitive. If you're lonely, why would you want a CEO instead of a friend?
Because we have been so deeply trained to see our own lives as a business. If you feel like your life is a failing startup, you don't want a hug. You want a turnaround strategy. You want a 5-point plan. You want a slide deck.
You want the algebra of happiness. It says this is a problem with a definitive, logical solution.
It's solvable. It's quantifiable. Just plug in the right variables: gym, career, stoicism, and the equation will balance. You'll get the correct output: happiness.
And this is where the legitimacy laundering comes in. He didn't start out talking about emotions. He started out as the smartest guy in the room when it came to analyzing value, corporate value.
He established his bona fides on a topic we all respect: money and power.
And then once that was established, he just swiveled the camera. He took the exact same language, the charts, the rapid fire delivery, the talk of assets and marketplaces and ROI, and he stopped analyzing Amazon's stock price and started analyzing your dating life.
It's a masterful act of brand extension.
Okay, let me be the devil's advocate for a second. Is that necessarily a bad thing? I mean, if you're a guy feeling lost and directionless, maybe treating your life like a distressed asset, as he'd say, is the kick in the pants you need.
That's the hook. That's why it works so well.
Go to the gym. I mean, that's not bad advice.
No, in a vacuum, it's great advice. Get your finances in order is objectively good. But you have to look at the framing. It's not just be healthy. It's increase your value in the dating marketplace.
Right. The language is always transactional.
He talks about economic viability. He frames the entire struggle of modern men as a failure to compete. And that message resonates because, it feels true.
It does feel like a brutal competition out there.
Absolutely. So he validates that grievance. He'll point to the statsmen falling behind in college, the wage stagnation, and he frames it as a gender war where women are the winners of the gender revolution.
I've heard him say that almost verbatim, that women are crushing it and men are being left behind.
But look at the context he leaves out. It's a massive omission. He focuses on the symptom. Women are more selective now without ever touching the root cause, which is that women's liberation fundamentally changed the purpose of marriage. For most of human history, marriage was an economic necessity for women, survival, a choice.
The demand side of the market changed its entire calculus.
The power dynamic shifted. But instead of exploring why men haven't adapted to a world that requires, non-coercive relationships based on mutual desire.
He just tells them to get a better asset portfolio.
Exactly. He's not telling men to dismantle the patriarchal structures that isolate them. He's telling them to become better CEOs of their own patriarchal brand.
And the solutions he offers flow directly from that premise. Get a mentor. Build an emergency fund. Stack skills.
It's the gospel of neoliberal self-improvement. It's all on you. The system is the system. You just need to get better at playing the game.
Because he's one of the loudest critics of big tech. He talks about the attention economy and how our phones are destroying us.
Constantly. How algorithms are designed to make us lonely and angry.
But his entire empire is built on that exact same attention economy. He uses podcasts, newsletters, and viral clips, the very tools he critiques, to sell his individualistic advice.
And he'll position himself as the sane, moderate alternative to the really toxic influencers like the Andrew Tates of the world.
He does. He says he's fighting against that kind of misogyny.
And maybe he believes he is, but he's using a milder, more palatable version of the exact same underlying logic. Tate says, get rich, get powerful, and dominate women. Galloway says, build your economic value so you can successfully compete for a high-quality mate.
One is wrapped in aggression, the other is wrapped in an MBA textbook.
But the core assumption is identical. Human connection is a transaction. It's a market. And your success in that market is determined by your value.
Which is the ultimate economic man fallacy, just applied to your heart.
And that's an incredibly seductive idea because it gives you homework. It keeps you busy optimizing your brand, tweaking your portfolio. But it can't and won't solve the fundamental problem of loneliness because it turns your entire existence into a performance for a market that doesn't care about you.
And that's the perfect bridge. Because if Galloway's brand is the solution being sold, we need to dig deeper into the actual problem. Why does this message of being left behind, of failing to compete, land so hard with so many men right now?
To get that, you have to go past the marketing and look at the deep-seated biology. You have to understand the mismatch.
I read about this young man, let's call him David, living in one of those new sterile apartments in Seattle. His job is entirely in the cloud. And you think back, thousands of years ago, his ancestor, also named David, found his worth in a very physical, very visible way.
He was the best builder in the village, or the most reliable hunter in the tribe.
His value was tangible and local. But today, our David in Seattle, he lives in a world where all those cooperative hierarchies have just vanished. They've collapsed.
There's no village.
There's no village. So he finishes his remote work shift and he opens a dating app. And he's not one of 10 eligible men in his village. He's one of 10,000 faces in a digital scroll. His status is measured by an algorithm he can't see or influence.
And the feeling that produces is just crushing.
He described it as a constant low-level hum of failure. He called it status anxiety. He's not lazy. He's just experiencing a profound evolutionary mismatch.
His brain is wired for a small tribe where his contributions matter.
And he's being forced to compete in a global digital market where he is, by definition, statistically invisible. He's a man who is designed for a village, but he's trapped in a void.
A man designed for a village trapped in a void. That is the most succinct definition of evolutionary mismatch theory I've ever heard.
When you see it that way, when you read about David's life, you realize what we're calling loneliness is just the sound of a human animal trying to function in an environment that has paved over every single traditional structure of belonging.
And that's why the advice to just level up feels so hollow.
It ignores the reality. The digital world broke the ladder he was supposed to climb. So when I look at David, I don't see a failure of discipline. I see the predictable psychological distress of a man whose entire social habitat has been digitized and destroyed.
Let's unpack that a bit more, this social brain hypothesis. The core idea is that the human neocortex, the big wrinkly part of our brain, evolved for one primary reason.
To manage social relationships.
To manage complex social relationships within a tribe of, give or take, 150 people. That's Dunbar's number. That's the cognitive limit of how many people you can maintain a stable social relationship with.
In that ancestral environment, your status was local.
You could realistically be the best at something that the group valued, the best storyteller, the best tool maker, the person who knew where to find medicinal plants.
There were multiple ways to win, multiple ladders to climb.
Exactly. There were what evolutionary psychologists call multiple competence hierarchies. You didn't have to be the single alpha male hunter warrior. You could achieve high status through other means that benefited the tribe. Now take our modern David and put him on Instagram or Tinder.
The ladder is suddenly infinite. And there's only one rung that matters.
It's not just infinite, it's flattened into a single vertical metric of success. Visibility, wealth, physical perfection. When David opens his phone, he's no longer competing with the other 10 guys his age in the village.
He's competing with Chris Hemsworth. He's competing with a billionaire on a yacht, the highlight reel of the top 1% of humanity.
His conscious, logical brain knows it's a curated highlight reel. He knows about filters and Photoshop. But his limbic system, the ancient, emotional lizard brain part,
doesn't know what a JPEG is.
It has no idea. It sees an image of a rival male with a perfect body on a private jet surrounded by beautiful women, and it processes that information in the only way it knows how. There's a hyper-dominant rival in my immediate territory who has monopolized all the resources and mating opportunities.
And the biological response to that is not to try harder?
The response is submission. It's to withdraw. This is where life history theory comes in, and it gets really dark. Organisms, from bacteria to humans, have different strategies based on their environment. If the environment feels safe and resources are abundant, you adopt a slow life strategy, long-term planning, investment, pair bonding.
But if the environment feels dangerous and hyper-competitive, which is exactly how social media makes the world feel,
your biology switches to a fast life strategy, or in this case, it just shuts down. It triggers a chronic, low-level stress response. It inhibits the motivation to take risks because your brain has calculated the probability of success as near zero. Why compete when you're guaranteed to lose?
Wait, that is a huge insight. So this ambition crisis, or failure to launch that you hear so much about with young men, it might not be a moral failing. It could be a biological adaptation to a perceived environment.
It's a rational conservation of energy. If you're a cheetah in a zoo enclosure, after a while, you stop sprinting into the concrete walls. You start pacing. That agitated, pointless pacing is the physical manifestation of anxiety. It's a survival drive with nowhere to go.
And telling that cheetah to just run faster is not only useless, it's cruel.
And that is why the digital world is so psychologically devastating. It creates a convincing illusion of an impossibly competitive environment that our Stone Age brains interpret as a literal life or death reality.
Which leads us to the really dark corners of the internet, where communities have sprung up that have taken this science, or a warped version of it, and built an entire ideology around it.
The manosphere, the incel communities.
They use all this very scientific-sounding terminology. It's very compelling.
They do, because they are mapping this feeling of mismatch. They're trying to make sense of it. They create these taxonomies. You have Chads, the genetic elite.
The top-tier men.
You have Stacys, their female counterparts. You have normies, bottoms, and this worldview is what they call the black pill.
Yeah, what exactly is the black pill?
The black pill is biological determinism pushed to its most nihilistic conclusion. It is the absolute belief that your genetic makeup, your height, your facial bone structure, your canthal tilt is your destiny.
It's genetic fatalism.
Completely. And it argues that female mating strategy is entirely driven by something they call hypergamy.
The idea that women are biologically programmed to always trade up to a higher status man.
They believe that in this new global digital dating marketplace, women have unlimited options and will therefore only select men from the absolute top tier. They're obsessed with the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle.
That 80% of women are competing for the top 20% of men.
Now, is there data to support that? Well, the data from dating apps like Tinder and Hinge is incredibly skewed. It does show a small percentage of male profiles getting a huge majority of the attention from female users.
So it's kind of true then.
It's true on the apps, but here is the catastrophic error in their logic. They take the dynamics of a hyper-visual, gamified, low-investment app and extrapolate it to be the fundamental, unchangeable truth of all human sexual dynamics for all time.
But I can see why it's so seductive. It provides a simple scientific answer for David's pain.
It validates it completely. It gives him a tidy explanation for his feeling of invisibility. It tells him, you're not lonely because society has atomized and community has collapsed. You're not lonely because you need to develop your social skills. You are lonely because your wrist circumference is too small. It's biology. It's not your fault.
Which is incredibly bleak, but also weirdly comforting. It absolves you of all responsibility.
It removes all agency. But notice the through line, back to our guru, Galloway. He also acknowledges this 80-20 dynamic. He talks about the inefficiencies of the dating marketplace, but his solution is work hard and become the 20%.
And the incel solution is, it's impossible, so give up and resent the system.
But look at the shared premise. Both of them accept, without question, that human relationships are a marketplace competition. They just have different advice on how to navigate it.
One is a bull, one is a bear, but they're both trading on the same stock exchange.
And that is the trap. Because whether you're desperately trying to increase your stock price or you're just furious that you've been priced out of the market entirely, you are still fundamentally viewing yourself and everyone around you as a commodity.
Which brings us perfectly to our third lens, because this isn't just about our evolutionary wiring, it's about the very specific economic system we've built on top of that wiring.
The market.
I saw a post online from a guy, let's call him Julian. He's a classic high achiever, works in tech. And he was applying the exact same ruthless efficiency to his dating life that he used at his startup.
I think I know this type.
He literally talked about his personality as a product that he needed to A/B test. He hired a professional photographer to optimize his profile pics to maximize his sexual market value. He was tracking his match rates on a spreadsheet.
He was trying to find a scalable solution to intimacy.
He's a perfect student of the neoliberal mindset. The very thing these gurus like Galloway claim to be critiquing this achievement culture, but their solutions just reinforce it on a personal level.
It's a profound contradiction.
Julian truly believed that love was just another market he could conquer if he just optimized his own brand enough. But he said the more he optimized, the more hollow and robotic he felt. He had successfully turned himself into a high-performance commodity, but he'd lost the ability to just be a person.
He optimized the humanity right out of himself.
I see everywhere. We have these powerful voices critiquing the soullessness of modern corporate life, and then they turn around and give men the exact same transactional toolkit to try and fix their private lives. Julian didn't need a better conversion rate on Hinge.
He needed a break, a reprieve from the constant pressure of having to be a product for sale.
And I feel for a guy like Julian because he's caught in this horrible loop where the only solution he's ever offered is just a more intense version of the logic that's causing his problem in the first place. We're teaching men to be better competitors in a game that is fundamentally designed to leave almost everyone feeling empty.
Neoliberalism of the soul. That's the term for what Julian is experiencing.
Okay, let's pause there because neoliberalism is one of those $10 words that gets thrown around so much, it's almost lost its meaning.
Yeah.
What do we mean specifically in this context?
It's definitely overused. But at its core, neoliberalism isn't just an economic policy, it's an ideology. It's the belief that market principles, competition, efficiency, value are the best way to organize every single aspect of human life.
So it's not just about free trade. It's about applying supply and demand curves to your friendships.
To your friendships, your hobbies, your self-worth, and especially your dating life. It's the ideology that transforms you from a person into human capital. You're not a man, you're an asset manager, and your portfolio is your personality.
Your humor is an asset. Your fitness is an asset. Your job is an asset.
And if your portfolio isn't performing, if you're not getting the return you want in the dating market, the logic dictates that you need to rebalance your assets, improve the product.
That's exactly what Julian was doing, iterating. It's startup language.
And this brings us to what I think is the most disturbing insight in all of this. We tend to dismiss the manosphere, the pickup artists, the red pill guys, the incels, as this bizarre, hateful fringe.
Right, as guys who have completely rejected society.
But they haven't rejected it. If you look closely at their ideology, they are actually the most devout, most faithful followers of this neoliberal logic.
They seem to hate the world.
They hate the outcome they're getting, but they fanatically believe in the premise of the market. The entire incel worldview is purely transactional. They believe women are rational market actors who are biologically programmed to purchase the highest value male product available.
They literally call it sexual market value, SMV.
They are obsessed with it. They have charts and graphs. They quantify everything. They measure facial ratios as if they're checking the specs on a new smartphone. An incel is simply a consumer who believes passionately in the free market of sexual selection, but is furious that he's been priced out.
Oh, okay, that reframes it completely. They're not rebels fighting the system.
They're disappointed customers who are demanding a refund and want to speak to the manager of the universe.
They don't want to dismantle the system. They just want to be the ones with all the capital.
And that is a massive critical distinction because it explains why the Galloway style advice, get rich, get fit, increase your SMV, doesn't actually cure the incel mindset. It does the opposite.
It validates it.
It confirms your deepest held belief. It says to them, yes, the market is real. Yes, your worth is your utility. The problem isn't the system. The problem is that you are a low-value product.
It's a gospel of conditional worth. You can earn the right to be loved if you provide enough value.
And that's the dead end. That's why these individualistic solutions, no matter how well-intentioned, are doomed to fail on a macro level. You cannot self-optimize your way out of a systemic collapse of community. Julian can get a six-pack and a promotion. He might even get more Tinder matches.
A better conversion rate.
He'll get a better conversion rate, but he won't get belonging. He won't get real unconditional community.
Because the entire structure of society has changed. We've systematically dismantled the third places, the bowling leagues, the union halls, the church basements, the public squares, where you could just exist as a person, not a consumer.
We have undergone a fundamental shift from a society of citizens to a society of consumers. A citizen has inherent worth and belonging simply by being part of the community. A consumer only has worth as long as they have purchasing power.
And when you apply that to dating, intimacy becomes just another product to be consumed. And markets are very good at efficiency, but they are not good at creating meaning. They're certainly not good at curing loneliness.
So when you pull all three of these threads together, you get a really clear and, frankly, a really bleak picture.
Yeah. Let's try and synthesize it. You start with the deep biological pain of an evolutionary mismatch. Our brains are screaming because they feel invisible and irrelevant in this new digital world. 2.
On top of that pain, you layer a neoliberal economic system that tells us our only value is our ability to compete and produce. It turns our entire life into a performance review.
And then, into that perfect storm of pain and pressure, a charismatic marketer like Scott Galloway steps in and says, hey, I see your problem. The answer is to treat your soul like a startup and optimize your personal brand. And that's story 1.
And the ultimate tragedy is that the cure is just a concentrated dose of the disease.
Wow.
Every single time you try to solve your loneliness by increasing your market value, you are reinforcing the toxic idea that human connection is a commodity to be bought and sold. You're just digging the hole deeper.
It really does feel like a glitch in the matrix. That moment of realization that the expert you turn to for a diagnosis is actually just a product of the very system that made you sick.
And we buy it. We sign up for the newsletter and buy the book because we are so starved for answers and because the confident man with the clear charts and the nice glasses looks like he knows the way out of the maze. But he's not leading us out. He's just selling us better running shoes to run faster on the hamster wheel.
So it all comes back to that initial question. Where does this leave us and the men listening to this?
It leaves us, I think, with a very difficult realization. The tragedy of the modern male experience isn't that men are broken, or that women have become too picky, or that we've lost the ability to be alpha. The tragedy is that we have collectively accepted a world where human connection is treated as a luxury good, accessible only to those with the right brand strategy. We are trying to solve a crisis of the soul with the tools of a hedge fund manager. And until we stop viewing ourselves as products to be optimized and start viewing ourselves as humans needing community, the marketplace will remain the only place we know, and it's a lonely place to be.